Hello everyone. So in this video I am going to take the important weekly issues from the module of international relation and internal security and under focus weekly. So the issues which I am going to discuss in these videos are the recent Israel-Hamas deal and US sanctions on Russia's shadow fleet, what exactly the shadow fleet is, then the fencing issue, border issue between India Bangladesh, and the fourth one which we'll discuss is the diaspora, Indian diaspora, its significance and challenges for us. So these topics we are going to discuss in this video from both pre and mains perspective. Wherever the relevance will be there for that particular issue in pre, we'll touch that, and what all aspects we can cover on these topics from mains, we'll touch that. Okay, so the first topic of our discussion is Israel-Hamas peace deal. So if you are reading your newspapers, you are well aware that it has been a year since the war is going on between Hamas and Israel. So from UPSC point of view, what all you need to know is, first relevance is that there can be a location based question in pre, and mains is all about the dynamics of Middle East and its impact on India, that is the dynamics of our look west policy. So first from the pre perspective, what all we need to know now, as Hamas is in the news, it is not mandatory that these things to be in the news. Sometimes the historical context of the issue can be asked in pre. As Hamas deal, Israel-Hamas deal is in the news. So till date, what all the efforts has been taken towards the normalization and towards the peace process of this particular issue has been done can also be asked in your pre-exam. So first thing we need to know is that Arab Palestine comprises of two territories, that is Gaza Strip and West Bank. The two main political entities of Palestine are PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization, and Hamas. So they both are political entities and they are governing different territories. PLO is the governing authority of West Bank and Hamas is the governing authority of Gaza, right? So last time when the elections took place in 2004-5 in the region, Hamas won more seats. Hamas won in Gaza Strip and PLO won in West Bank, but both failed to work together unitedly, and since then both are controlling different both are the governing authorities of different territories. Now the catch is the PLO leadership has acquired the legitimacy. PLO is seen as a legitimate political entity by Israel, US, UN, okay, and other Western European countries. So everyone consider, even India, everyone consider who is the legitimate political entity of Palestine? PLO. In 2012, Palestine has yet to become a state. Palestine as an entity has acquired the observer status in UN. Okay, and India supported the observer status of Palestine in UN. The difference between being a state and an observer status is, if you are a state in UN, you will acquire a voting right in General Assembly, as every state has one vote in General Assembly. So Palestine as a territory yet has only observer status. And who represents Palestine in UN? PLO leadership. Okay. So this much is important in international context for UPSC aspirants. So who is the legitimate political entity? PLO. And Hamas is seen as a terrorist outfit by West. Okay, but even Hamas is seen as a legitimate entity by few groups and states like Iran, Syria, and Hezbollah is a political militia of Lebanon. Okay, so I use the word political militias. Who are political militias? The political entities holding their own army are seen as political militias. Like in Lebanon, there will be one army of Lebanon. Hezbollah is a political entity having its own armed wing. So Hezbollah is a political militia. There are two types of militias in the region, one legitimate and others are seen as terrorists. If state recognize that militia becomes legitimate militia, like Hezbollah in Lebanon. But Hamas is seen as a terrorist entity, but they give legitimate recognition to Hamas. Okay. And the reason for Israel-Iran tension is Iran's support to Hamas. This is also the reason why Israel can't afford to see Iran becoming a nuclear weapon state, because the threat is it can reach into the hand, nuclear weapon can reach into the hand of Hamas, who stands to eliminate Israel. They keep giving the existential threat. So now Hamas Israel peace deal has signed, so this has increased the prospects of peace in the region, and India's interest lies with peace and stability. So one thing from exam point of view, that is the pre point of view, which is required is which side is Gaza. Gaza is on the western side and West Bank is on the eastern side. It shares border with Mediterranean. Then here it is written Golan Heights. It is under the control of Israel, and Israel took over the political control over Golan in 67, known as Six-Day War. And the issue of Golan is disputed between Israel and Syria. Okay, Syria claims its own territory. Arab world consider Golan as its territory. Illegal occupation of Israel over Golan. So you should be aware of this particular territory, that is Golan. Which side Gaza is? Gaza is under the control of Hamas, and Hamas is seen as a terrorist organization. India also have diplomatic engagement with PLO, and India was silent on the status of Hamas. After Hamas attack on Israel, this time, for the first time, Indian government has clearly criticized Hamas as a terrorist organization, and PM Modi in very clear words said it was a terrorist attack on the state of Israel. Okay. Now, as I said, if this peace deal is in the news, what all other initiative has been taken in the history towards the normalization of this issue, and the steps being taken towards two-state solution. So two things becomes important from pre-point of view. What are the elements of state as Palestine is aspiring for statehood, and what steps are taken for the normalization and towards the two-state solution in this region. So the major steps which are taken are, first is the Camp David Accord. I am not telling you the years in which this was signed, take it as your task, that which year Camp David Accord was signed. So Camp David was signed between the state of Israel and the state of Egypt. Egypt used to be seen as the leader of Arab world, and the Camp David Accord, when the Egyptian leadership signed this accord with the state of Israel, means giving recognition to Israel, prospects of peace increased. Second step was Madrid Peace Accord, signed in 91 between Israel and Jordan, but Israel and Syria failed to sign a peace treaty in Madrid, and Golan is still disputed. So Jordan, another major Arab state, gave recognition to Israel and started diplomatic ties with Israel in Madrid. Here Egypt started, here Jordan started. Third major step was, and the most important step in the direction of the two-state solution and towards the emergence of peace in the region, was the Oslo Accord, which was signed in 93, known as Land for Peace Proposal. So Oslo Accord increased the prospects of peace in the region, and this accord was signed between Palestinians and Israel, that is PLO. So under this accord only Israel gave legitimacy to PLO, and Israel gave assurance that Israel will go for withdrawal from Gaza and West Bank. So third step was Oslo Accord, and the fourth step, which was taken very recently, was Abraham Accord. Okay, so if Israel-Hamas peace deal is in the news, as an aspirant you should be aware of these four accords, that is in chronology, at least that the first one was Camp David and the most recent was Abraham Accord. And in Abraham Accord, two more Arab states gave recognition to the state of Israel. So these two Arab states were UAE and Bahrain. So as more and more Arab states started giving recognition to Israel, issue of Palestine was losing its sheen in the region. And this motivated Hamas to go for a violent act to bring back the issue of Palestine again on the surface, and at least Hamas has been able to successfully did that. Okay, so these 4 records are very important from exam point of view. Then, as I said, what are the elements of state? The 4 elements of state are territory. So first you should have a territory. Second element is population. Third element is sovereignty. Now PLO is a sovereign entity. They do have territory. Population is living in the territory, and they do running their own government. So these are the 4 elements. So despite having these 4 elements, PLO or Palestine is not yet a state, because in international system to become a state, you need international recognition from 2/3 members of UN General Assembly, and this becomes the 4th or the 5th important element to become a state in international system. So sovereignty is one of the most important criteria, but an entity can be sovereign without being state. So what will make someone as state in the international system is the international recognition, and that should come from the 2/3 members of General Assembly. So how many states we have in the world? 193 states in the world, and you can take it as a homework which was the 193rd state in the world, or the most recent state created in the world. And now Palestine is aspiring to become a state. If they will get recognition from 2/3 members of UN General Assembly, they will also acquire statehood, and India stands for full statehood for Palestine. So this much you should be well aware of from this particular update. Okay, so factual aspect of Israel-Hamas peace deal is not important. So what can be the challenges? Again the same challenges, that is the trust deficit there between the 2 parties. Okay, whether Hamas will end its violence or not, or once after normalization they can again get back to their violent path. Okay, so also how much the hardliners, that is the right wingers within Israel, will show seriousness towards the implementation of this deal. So it is about this deal, this is not from exam point of view which is important. Important is significance of this deal for India. So if peace will assure, if normalization of ties will take place, the project which we announced during G20, that is IMAC, India Middle East European Corridor, we can refocus on this particular project, that is IMAC, which is very important in our scheme of things. We have a strong diaspora there, so we are always concerned about their security. Okay. India will be better able to engage with Iran if Israel-Iran tensions will come down because of this deal. It is always in India's interest, because one of the major challenge of India's West Asia policy is to balance out Israel-Iran ties. So normalization of ties between Israel and Iran is always in India's interest. Now, if Hamas will end its violence, Houthis in Yemen will also end their violence, and it will be in the interest of India as large number of oil tankers passes from the waters which are under the control of the Houthi rebels, and it will lead to the economic stability for India also. India does not want instability because it can lead to the escalation of the oil prices, and Indian economy is always dependent on West Asian region for its energy security. So in this context, this normalization of ties between the two can be in the interest of India, or stability in the region is must for the success of our look west policy. Okay. So this is, so as such the issue is not important. Okay, Israel-Hamas peace deal has signed. The more important thing is what all major steps has been taken, what is the issue of statehood, okay, where are these locations. So I hope you can understand sometimes in newspapers what comes are the facts and you need to know beyond facts for your exam. Okay. So this covers our first topic of discussion, that is Hamas Israel peace deal. Let's discuss the second topic. Second topic of our discussion is nothing much to discuss though, in fact, US sanctions on Russia's shadow fleet. Now this term can be there in your pre-exam, that what shadow fleet is, who has imposed sanctions on whom for the shadow fleet. So targeting Russia's shadow fleet. We all know this, that since Russia's military action in Ukraine, in fact, when in 2014 Russia took over the political control over Crimean Peninsula, which was a part of the Ukraine. So Russia has politically took over the control over Crimea. The G8 grouping expelled Russia from G8, and since then G8 is G7, and they have put the blame on Russia for returning back to the expansionist policies of Soviet era. And they imposed sanctions. And these sanctions the US has further increased since Russia's military action in Ukraine. So Russian economy dependent on the export of oil. Russia one of the major player of OPEC also. So as Russian economy is under sanction, Russia is trying to bypass it with the help of its shadow fleet. Okay, it's a network of tankers which Russia is using to bypass the sanctions to export Russian oil in international market. So this is what exactly the shadow fleet is, means not easy to detect. Okay, so what Russia is doing, Russia is transferring oil in the international within the sea. Okay, so in between the sea only Russia is transferring its oil, making it difficult for US to detect. Okay, in this context, this shadow fleet, the terminology is important. Now India increased its oil imports from Russia. US not taken well this step of India of increasing Russian oil imports. US built pressure on India to not do so, but India is still importing oil. In fact, India and Russia started dealing in their local currencies. Okay. So if the disruptions in oil import take place, impact of US sanctions on India's oil import means if India will not able to import Russian oil, what can be its impact? Okay. So main impact it will be that it will increase India's dependency on Middle East, West Asia. Okay, and a lot of turmoil and instability in West Asia. It can have its impact on our energy security. I don't see personally that this topic can be of that relevant for your mains, but from the pre perspective you should be aware of the terminology, that is shadow fleet. Okay, so this can be a question in your pre-exam, what exactly the shadow fleet is and who is using this shadow fleet to bypass sanction. So it is Russia. Okay, the third topic of our discussion is the fencing issue between India Bangladesh. Okay, now Bangladesh lies in our immediate neighborhood. We are pursuing neighborhood first policy since independence. Bangladesh emerged as an independent country from East Pakistan in 71. We all know that India stood for their freedom, but we have seen a pattern in our engagement and ties with Bangladesh since its emergence as an independent country. We have seen a seesaw pattern. Okay, sometimes there is a lot of vibrancy in our ties and engagement with Bangladesh, but due to some factors, sometimes we have seen what anti-India sentiment within Bangladesh, a drift, a divergence in our ties with Bangladesh. So what is the major reason for this kind of pattern which we have observed in our engagement with Bangladesh is depending on the government in power. Whenever the League, Awami League, has been able to increase its political influence, we have seen a lot of vibrancy in our ties with Bangladesh. So from last many years, especially since 2009, as Awami League was in power, this is the reason we have seen an upward trend in our engagement with Bangladesh. Earlier, whenever BNP took the power, BNP as a party is having the support of the fundamentalist factions and it asserts its Islamic identity more, while Awami League is more secular in its approach. So whenever BNP comes to power, we have seen a drift in our engagement with Bangladesh. So from last many years, League was able to consolidate its power. We saw a lot of vibrancy in our ties with Bangladesh. In fact, when in the last election, Sheikh Hasina, she swept the elections with brute majority in Bangladesh. The opposition leaders put the blame on India for politically influencing the politics in Bangladesh, that there was a covert hand of India behind the victory of Sheikh Hasina. And what has recently happened, I hope you all are aware of this. Suddenly turmoil in the politics of Bangladesh. Sheikh Hasina, she has entered into India. We are giving her protection, and the leaders of Bangladesh and the new regime is demanding her extradition. The decision has yet to be taken. Suddenly turmoil has emerged in Indo-Bangladesh ties, and in this context further tensions has increased on the issue of border fencing. So this border fencing has not recently emerged. It is prevailing because the borders between India and Bangladesh has never been properly demarcated, considering the topography of the region, which is full of marshes. So border fencing is a perpetual issue which prevails, but it has suddenly escalated because of the emerging political tensions between India and Bangladesh. So this question is very relevant for India-Bangladesh ties for this year. Means are very important. What are the areas? Where lies the importance of Bangladesh for India? And what are the challenges in Indo-Bangladesh ties? And what exactly is the issue of fencing? Okay, so these are the aspects which are important from exam point of view. Now the most important aspect of our engagement with Bangladesh, and where lies the maximum importance of Bangladesh for India, is India is pursuing Look East policy, and under Look East policy, so we have changed Look East to Act East policy in 2014, and under Act East, development of Northeast is one of the important objective of ours. Now, what is the out of so many issues, the major hiccup to reach for India towards the northeastern is the connectivity. We only have a narrow Siliguri corridor. So the location of Bangladesh is very important for India for reaching out to northeast. And India has always looked for an alternate trade and transit route to reach out to northeast. Okay. The government of League was showing a lot of coziness or engagement with India, and they agreed for this trade and transit route. Again, this trade and transit route, the talks which were going on in this direction, there will be a hiccup in that because of the recent turmoil. So the major importance of Bangladesh for India lies in its that the success of Act East lies where in our engagement with Bangladesh because of its location, and we want to reach out to northeast. We want to increase our geographical reach to the region, that is northeast. So in this respect, Bangladesh is very important. Now that is why settling of borders becomes very important, and in this direction, recently we settled the issue of enclaves also. Okay, this issue of enclaves was prevailing from last many years, and Indian government and the Bangladesh government settled this by exchanging enclaves. We have given more enclaves, that is small islands, to Bangladesh, accepted their sovereignty. This we done only because we are looking forward for a alternate transit route from Bangladesh to reach out to northeast. But the major areas on which we have tensions are illegal migration, Teesta water issue, and West Bengal state is one of the important stakeholder in this. We do not want the state of Bangladesh to be used by the groups who have anti-India sentiment. So we expect from the government of Bangladesh not to allow their soil to be used for anti-India activities, and the government of Sheikh Hasina, she has done a lot in this direction. So India's interests were clearly aligning with Sheikh Hasina, as there is a lot of violent insurgency here, and violent insurgents, the borders are porous, and this is why India is very much interested in fencing it, because of the porosity of the border. Okay. Now, what is the border issue? Difficult terrain, and as I said, undemarcated because of the riverine nature of the region. So, what is the main issue in fencing border is, now one thing for pre point of view, that we share longest terrestrial border with Bangladesh, though there are a lot of marshes. So we are working to fence the border from last many years, and we have faced opposition. Why they don't want India to fence its border? It's a sovereign right of the government to fence its border, but they cite legal and humanitarian challenges. So why we want fencing? As there is a lot of illegal migration, there is smuggling, trafficking, and this region is seen as the golden triangle. Okay, so this is the reason why we want border, and the main reason is the illegal migration. What is the blame of the government of Bangladesh exactly is this one, that India's fencing is against Indira Mujib Accord. So you should be well aware of this. You can refer this in your pre and both in your mains. That is, our fencing is seen as the violation of this accord, in which we decided we will not going to fence 150 yards of the border. Okay, so we will not going to fence between the 150 yards. But the present, again, the government of Bangladesh and especially the present regime is blaming that India's fencing work is going on within 150 yard of the border. At many places, India's fencing is in between 150 yard, which is clearly against Indira Mujib Accord. Okay, so fencing in some areas, particularly in this region, is encroachment into Bangladesh territory. Okay, so this is the issue of fencing. So under perpetual issues on which we have tensions, this fencing issue is also one of the issue which prevails between the two. Indian government want to fence the borders, okay, because of the challenges of illegal migration, but Bangladesh leadership keeps blaming India for the violation of Indira Mujib Accord. Okay, so this much information is very relevant for exam point of view, both pre and mains. Okay. So let's shift to the last topic of our discussion, that is diaspora, significance and challenges. Okay. So the topic of discussion is Pravasiye Bharatiye or diaspora, its significance and challenges. So that word diaspora comes from word dispersed, those who are dispersed. So first thing, who all constitute Indian diaspora? The way Indian diaspora is huge, similarly China also has a huge diaspora, but as per the recent report, now our diaspora is the biggest diaspora in the world. Indian boasts the largest diaspora globally, and our diaspora is seen as one of the major strength by the government. As I said, even China also has a strong diaspora, but why Indian diaspora holds, why Indian diaspora is seen as one of the major strength for the major strength by the government is the emotional connect which Indian diaspora is having with the country of their origin. So they have a lot of emotional connect with India. Okay, the one thing is the spiritual reason. Okay, other reason is that in general the whole of the families has not migrated. Okay, still their roots lies back where in India, and many want once after living their life near retirement they want to come back and settle back within India. This is the reason why our diaspora holds a lot of weight and strength for. This is why the diaspora hold a lot of strength for India. Now, in general, if you see who all constitute Indian diaspora, so we see the diaspora comprises of NRIs, non-resident Indians, means those people who are holding Indian passport working abroad, they are the part of our diaspora, and people of Indian origin, someone born in India, renounced Indian citizenship and settled abroad, taken the citizenship of other country, children born from children of PIOs, they also become what? People of Indian origin. Those whose grandparents migrated way back and children born from such people who were once Indian citizen, they are also seen as PIO, people of Indian origin. To tap the potential of PIO, Government of India started OCI, Overseas Citizenship of India scheme. It's a kind of dual citizenship. It is not a dual citizenship. Our constitution do not allow dual citizenship. So it's a kind of dual citizenship, that is the OCI card scheme. So anyone can renounce Indian citizenship and can take the citizenship of other country, and later they can apply for OCI card, Overseas Citizenship of India, which make them eligible for many rights within India too. Okay. Now, to tap the potential of our diaspora, we organized Pravasiye Bharatiya Divas. So take it as a again task, from which year we started PBD, Pravasiye Bharatiya Divas, and it is celebrated every year on 9th of Jan. There is a significance for this particular date because this is the date on which Gandhi came back from South Africa, Mahatma Gandhi. So as Mahatma Gandhi came back, that is why this date was chosen. He is seen as one of the biggest ambassador of Indian diaspora. So this is the relevance of this date, and every year we organize Pravasiye Bharatiya Divas. And to tap the potential of diaspora, we started OCI card, Overseas Citizenship of India. Okay, so this much you need to know from the exam point of view. One important thing is the citizens of which country are not eligible for OCI card. Okay, I am not telling you. Try to find the answer for this question, that citizens of which country are not eligible and what could be the reason why we have not allowed them for the OCI card. And now you know basically OCI card is for whom, right? But we have not allowed the citizens of these countries to hold OCI. Now from exam point of view, where lies the importance of diaspora? Okay, first is political importance. The Prime Minister of the Britain itself became one of the people of Indian origin. Wherever Indian diaspora will be strong, it will drastically change the dynamics of our ties with that country. As the Indian diaspora started gaining more and more strength in US, this has also helped in changing the ties between India and US drastically. Post 90s, as Indian diaspora gained a bit of more strength in US during the Kargil war, a lot of pressure came from the Indian diaspora on the US government to pressurize Pakistan to end this war. For the first time in Kargil war, US criticized Pakistan, okay, for escalating tensions with India. So diaspora has its political importance, and they do act as a pressure group, as they are becoming important vote bank in that respective country. Then they have their economic importance. They send FDIs, they increase demand for Indian goods, they give market, okay. Then they have cultural significance. They became the ambassadors of Indian culture, and they increased the soft power of the state. Okay. So first, political significance. Second, economic significance. Remittances they send, FDIs they send. Okay, earlier we used to see as brain drain. Now the process has reversed from brain drain to brain gain. Go and work there, but do come back and do for your own society. So from brain drain to brain gain. The term coined by Prime Minister Modi. So they act as a bridge. So you can write their political, economic and socio-cultural significance. The challenges. What are the challenges? Challenges are also important. Still few can see it as brain drain. There are different types of demands from Indian diaspora, NRIs, from the government of India, like low skilled laborers in Gulf. They seek welfare support. Okay. And professionals, especially in US and other Western European countries, demand the streamlining of visa and taxation policy. So different demands. Rising protectionism. US is reducing the visas for Indian professionals. At the time of geopolitical instability, vacate such huge diaspora becomes challenge for the Indian government. Government has run a lot of evacuation programs in the recent times for the protection of the diaspora. Now, one of the negative impact which is very important to understand is many times diaspora, because of their financial capability and strength, start funding violent secessionist movements in the respective states, and this will be seen as support to terrorism. For example, the Tamil diaspora of Europe, the Tamil diaspora of Sri Lanka, they funded the struggle of LTT, issue of Khalistan in India. So if diaspora will fund the violent secessionist movements in their respective state, this will be seen as the issue of terrorism. Okay. Khalistan issue is one of the reason which has impacted the dynamics of India-Canada ties in the recent times. Okay. So these are the main challenges which prevail in the management of the diaspora. Okay. So it is the static topic which is written in your syllabus, diaspora and its importance. Any day there can be a question, who all constitute diaspora? NRIs, PIOs. There is one more category of people we can consider as the part of diaspora, though being ignored because the main focus is on NRIs and PIOs because of their financial strength. The third category of people which constitute diaspora are SPIOs, stateless people of Indian origin. Okay. And it is expected from the government to give a due consideration towards such people also, those who are seen as stateless, and such majority of such people are living in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. That is the SPIOs, stateless people. They are neither the part of India or Bangladesh, and considering the concern for these people only, we settled the issue of enclaves with Bangladesh. So the third entity which comes or constitute diaspora is SPIOs, stateless people of Indian origin. So these three category of people are seen as the part of diaspora, but the main focus is on NRIs and PIOs. Okay. So this much is there to discuss from this week from IR and internal security. We'll continue the discussion next week with whatever new topics of IR and internal security will be in the news. Keep watching these videos and keep preparing for your pre and mains. Bye, take care, best wishes.